Hey everybody, welcome to the Crohn's Fitness Food Podcast, dedicated to raising awareness, sharing IBD stories, and offering support for those with Crohn's and colitis. Together, we can share knowledge, experiences, and help show the world the many faces of IBD. Well, hi everyone. Thank you for joining me today for another episode of the Crohn's Fitness Food Podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Gish, Crohn's warrior since 2006 and lifelong fitness fanatic. My guest today is Nicole Candelaria, who was diagnosed with both Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis in 2008. Then in June 2017, she was later diagnosed with ileitis and perianal Crohn's disease. She's here to share her journey and how she balances life with IBD. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nicole, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here and be able to share my story with you. And I think it's amazing what you're doing, being able to share other stories to spread hope. And I know how lonely this disease can be. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And you're spot on. This can definitely be a lonely disease. And so it's, thank you for coming on to share your story because it does make such a difference. And I'd wanted to have you on for quite a while. So I'm glad that we're finally getting a chance to talk.
I know. There's just been so much going on, which I'll definitely get into.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in. A lot of the listeners know that I like to start off by asking about your IBD journey. So why don't you go ahead and talk about what it was like when you were getting diagnosed and how your diagnosis finally came about?
Yeah. So, this all started back, believe it or not, my symptoms started in October of 2007. And actually, I didn't even know that these were symptoms of Crohn's disease.
Mm-hmm.
I had just started my first semester at college. I started taking all these science courses because I wanted to be a pediatrics nurse. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, into my first semester, which is pretty much the month of October, just when I started, studying for the mid-semester exams,
Mm-hmm.
I started with diarrhea and abdominal pain. I didn't think anything of it because I thought, okay, maybe this is stress related. You hear from family members say, oh, you know what? That's what happens when you stress yourself out. It'll go away. So 1 week turns into 2, then 4, and then all of a sudden we're in the 3rd month and the diarrhea has gotten a lot worse. I can't hold down food. The abdominal pain just got worse. And you would think, oh, why did I wait so long? I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So I then, told my parents, I need to see a doctor. This is not normal. So when I went to my primary doctor, she ran several tests and she even did a stool culture test and everything came back normal. So at her point in time, she's like, you know what? I have to turn you over to a gastroenterologist. She had a suspicion of what she thought it could be, but because she wasn't a specialist and she couldn't do the test that the digestive doctors could, she couldn't quite say what she thought was on her mind. And she,
Oh no.
You don't want to scare anyone either. So
did she not say anything? Or did she kind of skirt around it?
She skirted around it. She's like, you know what? When you see the digestive doctor, once you have your diagnosis, then we'll come back to me and we'll discuss everything from there.
How did that make you feel? I would imagine that would add to the anxiety.
It sure did. It made me very nervous because I had no idea what to think. I'm the oldest in my family. I have 2 younger brothers and I was the most healthiest. I was always active in sports. I loved exercising. I could eat almost everything and anything without any issue. So for this to happen, I was just overwhelmed. Like so many emotions went through me. So I was scared, honestly. And I was praying like, please let it be just something temporarily, maybe it was something that I ate that just didn't go down right. So by the time I met with the gastroenterologist, he ran additional tests and he also reran the stool culture test just to make sure that maybe at the time that I got tested,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there wasn't enough time for maybe if I had bacteria to kind of dwell and to show an actual true
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis. So everything came back negative, and he said, okay, we're going to have to do a colonoscopy and endoscopy to find out what's going on. I had never ever had a colonoscopy done.
Mm-hmm.
So I was nervous, but also didn't like the preparation part. Oh, I don't think anyone ever does.
I don't think anyone does.
No. So I remember going in, I was just, oh, I think that's like, the part where everyone dreads like, okay, this might be the moment,
Mm-hmm.
Once I wake up from the procedure, I might have information, and it's
Yeah.
like, is it going to be something good, or is it going to be something that's going to be life changing? So after the procedure, once I wake up, the doctor then noticed, he said, I noticed that you have colitis, but we also noticed something else that we need to outrule first. So we have to, the biopsy that we took, we have to send it to California. Within a week or so, we should have results. So I had to wait a week that felt like forever.
Yeah. I'm surprised you couldn't
And
do it closer. Were you living in Florida at the time? Did they have to send it,
yeah,
they had to
I
send it all
was
the way across the country? Or
all the way across the
That's
country. Yes.
crazy.
So I get the results back, and it's also Crohn's disease. So who would have thought that I would have
Wow.
colitis and Crohn's together at the same time?
You are the
So
second person I've heard that after all of the
really,
interviews I've done, 50 plus, you're the only second person that has said that they were diagnosed with both at the same time.
really, oh
Yeah.
God, and I didn't realize how, and I don't think I could say rare, but I think I was more surprised to hear that it wasn't as common to hear
Yeah.
that people would have two diagnoses of
Mm-hmm.
IBD. So, and granted, at the time had just turned 18. The information that was given to me went right through me because I just didn't know. I was overwhelmed. One, with like, oh wow, I now have an autoimmune
Mm-hmm.
disease that I have to live with, and two, I have no idea what ulcerative colitis is or Crohn's disease is. So I was
Yeah.
just lost.
So,
So I had no idea that you couldn't have both until later on in my
mhm.
journey with Crohn's and colitis.
So tell me about that. You get your diagnosis, and then what was life like after that of trying to manage it? And then did you notice the difference between when Crohn's versus the ulcerative colitis would flare up? Or
So, okay. Oh wow, where do I begin? It felt like a roller coaster ride. To be honest with you, I, with just turning 18, you're still a teenager. You're trying to balance out college, because they always say your first semester of college is actually one of your toughest
Mhm.
because, it's no longer high school anymore. And then now being dealt with the card of, oh, well, now you have a chronic disease. So I was very overwhelmed. I went through many emotions of shock and anger,
Mhm.
asking like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? What did I do to deserve this?
Yeah.
All those different whys, run through your mind, and also accepting that now what you used to do before can't be
Mhm.
entirely done, or at least you can't carry through it with dealing with Crohn's and colitis.
It's going to be different.
It was going to be very different. So I went from not having to worry about having to take so many different pills a day. Before, it was just multivitamins because
Yeah.
I was healthy as can be. So the first, I think, biggest difficulty that I had is waking up in the morning and having to take, like, they first started me off on Asacol.
Mhm. That was my starter
That was,
medication too.
yeah. So in the beginning, it seemed to have been working, but I had to take, I don't remember if it was 3 pills
The Asacol
three
is a
times a
lot.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I can't compare them. It was so far back,
And they're big
but
pills,
and
like they're horse pills
yeah,
and you're swallowing handfuls of them.
yes. So that was an adjustment. There was a point where I didn't want to take it because I thought, okay, no, I know I can actually battle through this. I need medication. The doctors are wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. And, when I noticed that, medications, I have to take it. And, my mom, bless her heart, because, she's an amazing mother. And, it's not easy on a parent to hear that their child,
Yeah.
now has an illness. So I was going through my moment of, of so many emotions. And so was my mom.
Yeah.
At that time, I was young and I didn't really take in consideration as to her feelings. I was so focused on me because my whole world just crumbled. So we did have, moments where we were just butting heads. My mom's like, you have to take these medications. You have to take care of yourself because we have to find a way to slow down, the diarrhea and the abdominal pain. So we butted heads. And I guess that was my way of releasing the anger that I had inside. So I did, my first few months were really hard. And I tried to fight out the pain that I was feeling, at least abdominal wise. I admit there were days where I shouldn't have gone to class, but I wanted to finish out the semester and I pushed really hard. And probably shouldn't have, but I did. And thankfully I had friends that I had created before this had happened in my semester. And they helped me to, I guess you could say, make it a little bit easier on me in some sense. There were definitely some low moments, I can definitely say, so it is just, I can definitely, if I can explain my first year with my diagnosis, it was a roller coaster ride of emotions.
And I completely get that because you're young and so much is new at that time anyways. This is supposed to be the time at 18 when you go experience the world and you're on your own and you're starting college, and then all of a sudden that's just ripped away and now you've got this disease that you've never heard of before and you're battling it, and it is a lot and it is a roller coaster, and you're definitely not alone in that.
Yeah.
So did you end up getting into remission at all, or had you been, because it's been quite a few years now that you've been battling both of these diseases, and then compounded on that you get more diagnoses later. So what has it been like going through everything? And I know from your last post on social media, which was a while ago, it sounds like you're finally in a good spot, but had you reached remission in all that time?
There was at one point, so I had gone through several additional medications aside from Asacol. So Asacol stopped working, and I also, this might be a little bit too much information, but
this is Crohn's disease and IBD, so the people who are listening totally understand.
They'll understand. You're right. So for us, sometimes when we can't control our bowel movements, food isn't digested completely.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Asacol, I was finding it in the toilet.
Wow.
So we knew that we had to change medications. So they had placed me on steroids, the prednisone that I think everyone just doesn't.
I've never heard good things
no,
from anybody.
No, I definitely didn't enjoy that. And they had me on antibiotics and which was Flagyl, and also 6-MP. So those three combinations, for whatever reason, had, I think altogether was too much on the body to handle.
It is a lot.
And I had experienced some really, really bad side effects where I know that actually I think the doctor at the time thought it was more the 6-MP, and he did warn me and say, if I start feeling severe joint pain or any other side effects along with it, to immediately call him right away, because then we would have to take you off. So I don't remember what semester I was in by then, but I was on break, and my family and I decided to travel to Puerto Rico because that's where my family is originally from. And I didn't get to enjoy it because the next morning that I had woken up, I actually couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
I was in so much joint pain. It actually hurt to actually breathe as well because my whole back was hurting. It was a moment that I won't forget. It made me it terrified me, I should say, as to what medications were capable of doing.
Yeah.
So at some point we were doing a little better than before when I was placed on acetylcholine. But I had to be taken off immediately from the 6-MP while I was on vacation. I had to call the doctor and let him know what was going on. And he said, we have to stop that right away, but we have to keep you on the antibiotics and also on the prednisone. So,
and talk about adding to that anxiety and scariness to be on vacation away from, like, at this point now you can't even just drive into the doctor's office. No. You're just completely vulnerable in a sense.
Yeah, I was honestly terrified. And so were my parents. My parents, I think, more than anything, and moms,
yeah.
God bless their hearts. She was, I think, panicking, like, oh, what should we do? She was looking at doctors around the area, and she was giving even natural doctors an opportunity. I guess, you go through that whole, like, trying out what can help.
Try anything and everything.
Everything, yeah. So we, in the meantime that we were there, as I was taken off of the 6-MP, the medication was still taking its time to, I guess,
come out of your system.
Out of the system. So we did see a naturopathic doctor, but of course, it's just so different information that they give. So we were just anxiously waiting for the end of the trip to come back. Thankfully, it was just only for a few days that we were there, but those few days felt like it was way too long than what it should have.
Yeah.
So when I come back, I see the doctor. The doctor wants to place me on a biological drug. I think by then because I was so terrified, I had panicked. I'm like, I don't want to be on medication. This is just not what I, expected to happen. And what if, because you start reading the list of side effects, like, God, there's cancer and lupus and all these different
read all that fine print.
And you start panicking. So, I did the things that I shouldn't have ever done, or what a doctor always advises you to never do. I stopped all my medications
all at once.
I weaned myself off of prednisone the way how the doctor instructed me, but he had no idea that after I finished weaning myself off, that I was never going to start back on any medication. So I kept that tidbit to myself. Oh my God, if my doctor hears me, I'm sorry. Yeah. But, so by that time, once I was completely weaned off of the prednisone, I was off the antibiotics. I just stopped everything. I started doing more research, and my mom kept saying, let's keep looking at the organic stuff. Let's see what we can do that's not in the pharmaceutical, anything to do with medication route. So, oh wow. We went to several places. We even eventually, once I was, believe it or not, I cut out so much of a lot of food. I went the vegan route.
Yeah.
And I did a cold turkey, and that, for whatever reason, was helping me tremendously. And then with the advice that I had gotten from the naturopathic doctors, as far as the type of remedies, probiotics, the L-glutamine, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think so. That's how I say it.
Yeah. And aloe vera, and drinking ginger and turmeric teas, those little things will help in some way or form.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was doing that and being very strict on my diet, I noticed a huge difference. So
Yeah.
at one point, I was in remission.
Wow.
I think that might have lasted 2 years.
Wow. And you were in your early 20s at this point, probably?
Early 20s at this point.
Yeah.
I think I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
21, yeah. But then all of a sudden, the symptoms started coming back. And I was just so upset. I'm like, no, I thought we were on a good track.
Yeah.
But, you know,
IBD doesn't obey the rules all the time.
No, it doesn't. It pretty much, I mean, I don't want to say that it has a mind of its own, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how well you take care of yourself. But sometimes you could be taking care of yourself so well that the unexpected happens.
And there's things that we don't necessarily think about too. Oftentimes we immediately think of diet, of course, because I think diet can make our symptoms immediately noticeable, but we often don't think about things like sleep and stress and just changes in lifestyle that, you know, we're thinking, well, I'm working out and being healthy and I'm eating right, but we don't think about all these other even chemicals in our makeup or household products that it doesn't, you know, we just don't know how little we need to get pushed over the edge and out of remission.
Yeah, no, you make a very good point, you know, and, you know, like for instance, sleeping, I wasn't sleeping the greatest, but I didn't really know as to why. I just thought, okay, maybe the bed is uncomfortable, you know, but then as time went on, I realized, yeah, no, this is actually it's part of going through the journey with Crohn's disease and colitis. And then, you know, especially when you are on medications, it also affects your sleeping as well. So it's just weird. And I remember seeing certain posts on other bloggers, which I can very relate. During the day, you're exhausted as can be, and you can't wait for the day to come back home and lay in bed and go to sleep. But then
all of a sudden at
nighttime, you can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
So it's happened. So yeah, it affects you in so many different ways. Yeah.
So what happened? Tell me how you got to where you're at now. So you were doing good for a while, then you'd mentioned you fell out of remission, and so take me through from that point to where you're at now, because it sounds like you're in a good spot now, and there was a surgery in between there, and so a lot has happened.
Yeah, so I'll fill in the gaps. So yes, so once I go through my moment of like, oh my God, going the medication-free route helped me to, oh my goodness, I now have abdominal pain that is not going away. Now having diarrhea that's just going 10 times or more a day. I have no choice but to admit myself into the ER. Or I should say, go to the ER. The ER has to admit me. And they run all the, you know,
all the same tests.
Yes. And they realize, yep, you're under a relapse. You need to be put on medication.
If you've listened to episode 45 of this podcast, you already know that I came across another gut-friendly company doing amazing things in the nutrition space through our incredible IBD network. Sylvia Tam, founder of Beviva Foods, has developed her gut-friendly snacks for people on the go. Her snacks are not only easy to digest, they're portable and delicious. I honestly love all her purple products, but the purple granola is my favorite. It's made of real ingredients, no fillers or junk, easy to throw into my purse to have on the go, and gives me that slightly sweet and delicious crunch that I'm always looking for. Listen to episode 45 of this podcast to hear Sylvia's personal IBD journey and how she started Beviva Foods. And for 15% off your order, use code CFF15 at bevivafoods.com.
So I was so stubborn. I'm like, no, I'll take the steroids and everything that you're giving me.
I think stubbornness is a trait of IBDers.
Yes, it is. It really truly is. And, you know, and I think, and maybe I could be wrong, but stubbornness, I think also you're just not ready to accept fully that you have
Mm-hmm.
to accept the new norm in your
Yeah.
life. That this is, even though you have Crohn's disease and colitis, sorry, it doesn't define you,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that was my issue. I felt defined
Mm-hmm.
by my diagnosis. I didn't feel like Nicole anymore. I felt like a foreign person in a different body.
Especially because I imagine it sounds like you gave up a lot. I know in one post that I read is
Mm-hmm.
that you were really active. You did all kinds of, I think, taekwondo and athletics and sports and just everything under the sun. You were incredibly
Mm-hmm.
active. And then I'd read that really became a challenge since
Oh, yeah.
diagnosis, that your whole life just changed.
Yeah, that was a huge crush for me. It really was, because I love being physically active. I when I went to college, I was hoping to join several
Mm-hmm.
sports. And even, and, you know, music is also, was and still is a part of my life. I played musical instruments, and I was hoping to join the, band.
Mm-hmm.
The nerd in me, I embrace it, but
My husband was in band.
oh, awesome. What instrument did he play? Sorry.
Drums.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. See, I was clarinet and mellophone. I did two
Mm.
different things, so I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping to pursue that, and just,
Mm-hmm.
I truly love actually being involved in so many different things. So when I saw that I couldn't even get up from bed and be able to actually go up and down the stairs, because I was also anemic too from Crohn's
Mm-hmm.
disease and colitis, I just was so, I think, broken on the inside, because the person who I used to be, I no longer could be. And I was fighting it tooth and nail. And I think that's what contributed to my stubbornness, because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to let go. I didn't want to let go. I was afraid of the unknown, afraid that if I let go, I would become someone that I didn't recognize. But little did I know I was becoming unrecognizable by holding on to
Mm-hmm.
that stubbornness. So of course, I was stubborn for a while after that ER visit and the hospitalization. I think I ended up in the ER two other times. And I think what
Mm-hmm.
did it was when I was told that my iron levels actually, they dropped significantly, where they could not release me. They had to admit me, and I had to get two, blood, transfusions.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, I think, made things more real, and it woke me up more that I have to go back to seeing my doctor.
Yeah.
So that was, another, like, a roller coaster of emotions, because you think, you have everything handled, and you think that you may have accepted things, but when certain things happen in your life to kind of wake you up and rattle you, you realize, wow, I don't have this completely handled. I don't know everything. And I thought I had this handled, and I really don't, like, as far as acceptance wise.
Yeah. I completely
So,
agree and understand. I mean, it's a very devastating feeling when you think, especially when you get to a point where you're feeling good and you almost feel like you're starting to rock and roll a little bit, like things are going well, and then you just get
mhm,
just knocked all the way down, and it's devastating. It's really hard to
yeah,
accept, like this thing that you can't see and you can't fight, and you're doing everything you can that you think is supposed to help, and it's just not working.
yeah, oh yeah. If there was ever a handbook of how to cope and how to accept, it make life easier. But unfortunately, there's not. I mean, I'm sure there's books out there, but thing is that everyone's journey is so different. You
Hmm.
know, it's not a clear path.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes the person to go through so many different experiences to finally realize, yeah, we have to do things differently.
You kind of have to go on that roller coaster ride
Yeah,
and
you
then come off it
do.
at the end to realize how you got through it.
Exactly. So once I got back in touch with my gastroenterologist, that was just a lovely reunion there. He was happy to see me, but at the same time, he's like, "Where did you go?" And,
Yeah.
he
I
was frustrated.
think sometimes we don't think about our doctors that way, because I'm often surprised how my doctor actually does remember me just from the comments they'll make or the things they'll say. And it's like, how do you remember me out of however hundreds or thousands of patients? I don't know how many you have, but they do, especially the good ones. They really do care and they remember you. And sometimes it's easy to forget that because we're just in our own world battling what we have to every day.
Exactly. And, you bring a very good point too. Doctors really do play a factor as to how comfortable your appointments can be.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a doctor that's not understanding and not willing to actually sit there and listen to you talk about what's going on, then it makes the experience more uncomfortable. And I think it feels like an unsuccessful doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I got lucky that the doctor that I had when I was in Florida at the time, he was great. He really was. He tried to help me as best as he can. He really bent forward and backwards for me. So, he actually needed an MRI, and all those lovely other scans done. Now, MRIs, doing the test, not so bad. The preparation, I just don't like it. Oh, if I could just skip that part and just get to the testing, I wouldn't mind it. But yeah, that was just an experience. So once we did the MRI, we realized that there was an area that the MRI wasn't able to pick up that well.
Was it an MRI with contrast or
with contrast? Yeah. So he figured, okay, let's do a colonoscopy and see if we can see further. Unfortunately, because I had too much inflammation going on, he wasn't able to really see much into it. So surgery was an option. The next option, I should say. So as much as we wanted to avoid it, we tried avoiding it by just a few months. He put me on Humira. I had to get over my phobia of biological drugs and the possibility of side effects. I was placed on Humira. Humira didn't seem like it was doing anything because I ended up in the ER. And it just, the inflammation just got so worse that steroids, even though, yes, okay, it's a temporary fix, but something has to be done. By then, the doctor said, yeah, we're going to have you go see a colorectal surgeon. So I went. They had to do, I think it's called a sigmoidoscopy. They wanted to see what was going on because I had also, which I actually forgot to mention, I had a fistula. And they wanted to see if it was actually healed or if it was still active before they pursued the route of surgery. They wanted to know what they were getting themselves into and decide, okay, what type of procedure we're going to have to do. So they did that. At the time, the fistula was actually was healed.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't have to do anything. So from what I heard at that time, having a fistula heal isn't as common. So I was very lucky on that. So once he gave me pretty much the whole bigger picture of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go in laparoscopically and then take it from there and see what's going on. Surgery, I've never had surgery before. So
not even on, like, not related to IBD, just no surgeries?
No, this is going to be that was going to be my first surgery.
Oh.
So I was so nervous. I was dreading it, and I was putting off the surgery, but I couldn't because I wasn't getting any better. Because, when you hear, the possibilities of what can happen.
Yeah. Especially as we're an adult, when you're a child, your brain only goes so far. But then when you're an adult, it's
Exactly.
almost like you can just send yourself down all these rabbit holes of thoughts and horrible things. And so I think it's harder to process.
It is. It really is. So, and then, I think for me, and, it's just amazing how with time, when you picture yourself then and now, how you're in a different place. During that time when I was being told that I needed to have surgery, when I was being given the explanations of all different possibilities, they had mentioned that, there might be a possibility that when you wake up, you might actually have an ostomy bag. I was just heartbroken. I'm like, oh my God, do I really have to? I wasn't prepared for that because, again, I hadn't fully accepted myself with a disease that couldn't be healed. So I was just terrified. So the build up to waiting to have the surgery was just very stressful. So when I had the surgery, waking up from it, no one ever wakes up feeling great after surgery, but the process of healing afterwards, it took actually longer. The way what they did was a right hemicolectomy. That was the surgery. Before I go on to that, so the surgeon was supposed to do a laparoscopic procedure. Unfortunately, when he went in, he realized that part of my small intestine was starting to deteriorate.
Oh, wow.
And they saw, I believe, a portion of the large intestine that was connected to the small intestine. It had actually collapsed over a part of my small intestine. So they had to pull back and actually open me up.
Wow.
And they had to pull out about a foot of my small intestine and 10 inches from my large. So when you hear from the doctor after the procedure saying that, you were very lucky.
Yeah.
Had you had waited, that hole that the intestine was, I should say from long-term damaging inflammation, because as we know, Crohn's disease, it eats through all your layers.
Yeah.
So when they saw how fine and thin that layer was, they said that if I had waited longer, the intestine would have actually opened up, and then I would have had
ruptured, and
it would have ruptured, and then the possibility of sepsis happening.
Wow.
So it was a moment where I think that just shocked me even more as to how dangerous it is if you keep on waiting and you keep pushing because you're not ready to actually have these procedures done.
Yeah.
So the healing process didn't go as smoothly as how I thought it would. The area where they resected didn't heal properly, so I developed adhesion tissue. And the way how the intestines, the way it was formed, it was a bit bent. So I wasn't really able to eat food, especially food that was binding. So
anything other than soup?
anything other than soup, anything other than any kind of liquid. So I had moments where I had a partial blockage. And that's actually, now speaking of blockage, there's actually a story that I did forget to actually talk about. That was a big aha moment for me to go back to see the doctors. I actually had my first intestinal blockage. I had no idea what was going on. And because I wasn't as educated and I didn't do as much research as I should have, I didn't realize that by not going to the bathroom was not a good thing. I thought, oh, I'm going back to normal. I'm not using the bathroom as much. Yeah, by the third day, I was in so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was throwing up bile. And that's when I thought, okay, yep, we gotta go to the ER. That was a close encounter where I needed to almost have an emergency surgery. Instead, they put me on a nasal gastric tube.
Mm.
Not a fun experience at all because they had to reinsert it 3 different times
Oh,
because the
wow.
first 2 times they inserted in the wrong side where it was pulling out blood. So
Oh, no.
that was my other big shaker, other than
Yeah.
needing the blood transfusion. Now that I'm remembering,
Of how
so
serious IBD
how serious it
is.
was. Yes, I had no idea that all of these things could happen. So now back to the part
Yeah.
where me recovering from the surgery, I was afraid. I'm like, oh my God, intestinal blockage. We have to avoid that because I think I had gotten a little bit traumatized
Mm-hmm.
in that experience. I wasn't eating as much of solid food. I was liquefying
Mm-hmm.
food and drinking inshores or booze.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not the greatest on the stomach, but I just wasn't able to eat solid food because my portion of where I had the resection wasn't easily allowing things to flow through easily. So I had to see my doctor. More tests were done, imaging wise, to figure out, okay, what's really going on. And the MRI did show that there was, an issue going on in the area where I had the surgery. They suggested having a colonoscopy done, but to stretch out the area.
Mm.
So we did that. That was my first experience doing it. It was uncomfortable after that procedure because I felt still so raw. Mind you, this was months after having the surgery. So I had
Wow.
enough time
Mm-hmm.
to heal, but my body just didn't, I guess everybody is so different. My body was just so sensitive to little things.
Yeah.
So having that area, the part of the resection stretched, it was just uncomfortable. And I thought, okay, you know what? We'll deal with it. We'll see. Maybe this should be it. I want to say maybe 2 months after having that procedure done, I noticed that I was having the same issues. I wasn't able to eat solid food. It wasn't passing through easily. And the thing is, that wasn't the only issue now that was happening. I started noticing that my bottom area was uncomfortable. And I thought, okay, maybe it's just the hemorrhoids that's bothering me. I don't think if I've ever felt I don't want to say pain.
Mm-hmm.
I can tolerate pain, but it was just a level of really pure discomfort where I couldn't sit on the chair properly. I couldn't walk too far. I was having low grade fevers, night sweats. And believe it or not, my heart rate was also being affected by what was happening.
Was it higher or lower?
It was a lot higher, a lot higher. I was always in a tachycardiac phase. So I can't even, so many doctor visits and phone calls later. We have to do another colonoscopy to find out what's going on. Come to find out, I have perianal Crohn's in the lower rectal anal areas. So,
and this was 2017, right? That you got that
2017
diagnosis.
When I had that diagnosis. Oh yeah, I was not happy at all to hear that now I have another part of my body that's affected by Crohn's disease. Just, I was not happy. I thought, okay, they say once you have surgery, so they say, once you have surgery, you should be fine a few years later. You don't have to worry about, any issues happening. Not the case with me. The healing process was very difficult. It was complicated. And then come to find out that now I had perianal Crohn's. So
at this point, had you still not fully accepted, because you talked about that a couple of times, of not really accepting the disease and the diagnosis, had you still not fully accepted at that point, or?
I was getting better. I actually had gone past a lot of hurdles by then. But then as I was getting so positive to hear now that I have another diagnosis, it brought me back a few steps backwards.
Yeah.
So all that hope that I was building up to and the positivity just kind of got taken away, at least a few steps. It definitely, I just was like, okay, what's going on? This is a joke, right? Because how can I be having all these different diagnoses? I don't understand. I meet other people and they say they're perfectly fine. They're on these other medications and it's been treating them. I haven't come across anyone that was going through the same experiences that I was. So I kept thinking I must be doing something wrong or I just must have bad luck. So that was another moment where, again, now we have to accept the fact that we now have an additional diagnosis. So doctor was trying to do everything that he could, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, but with having perianal Crohn's disease, there's not that many I guess you could say successful medications out there that can truly control the symptoms in that area versus had it been just in the small intestine. There's a medication, a different form of budesonide. It's in the form of foam, and I forgot the name of it. But they actually created purposely for perianal Crohn's. It was still freshly new. It's literally a foam that you actually inject inside of your rectal area so that it's heavily concentrated, because they say that if you take the pill of the steroid, it's not going to reach the end of that segment of your digestive tract in time to really fully give off the power that it needs.
Is it similar to the Rawasa enemas? I was prescribed those at one point early on, and they were kind of like almost like a foam enema, basically.
It could
be, but then
yeah.
You just had to, because that way, the medication, just like you're describing it, it's topical at that point, so it's applied directly to the affected area.
Yeah, it sounds pretty much like it. So that's how it was. So it was helping for a few weeks. Then we noticed the body was starting to, I can't say resist. Maybe it could have, who knows? It just wasn't enough anymore. So I was getting desperate. By then, medical insurance became a problem because when the new year was coming, when you have to I had Obamacare at that time. The job that I had during that time, they didn't have great insurance, and I needed really good insurance.
Yeah.
So I went through the Obamacare, and I had to choose the highest plan possible. And unfortunately, going through private insurance is expensive. So the thing is that when the new year came in, this was 2018, the insurances had changed so much because during that time, Obamacare, they took a lot of funding away when we received our new president. So many things were changing. The plan that I had to choose was not the highest plan that I had the year prior. Because now, because of the funding not being fully provided anymore, I had to choose a plan below what I already had. Gosh. So that means I had higher out-of-pocket max. I had only a limited option of doctors I can see. So certain things were happening where I had to...
Probably adding more to anxiety and stress, which doesn't help IBD.
For sure. So I had to eventually venture out and see a different doctor a doctor that was recommended by my primary doctor at the time. Well, she had mentioned down in Miami that there was a Crohn's and colitis clinic that I think that maybe might benefit from them. So as that was happening, the transition to kind of feel out the doctors down there, I think I was blown away as to the knowledge that this doctor was able to provide to me that unfortunately my sweet doctor that I've been with for so long couldn't. So that was an eye opener for me. And I realized, you know what? I think I'm being undertreated because the doctor that I've been seeing for such a long time, his knowledge wasn't as profound as this doctor was.
Not a specialist in IBD.
Yeah. So it was just, I mean, the list just goes on as far as the journey goes. What I can say about that appointment with that doctor, he was able to give me more information that the doctor that I originally was with couldn't. They changed me from Humira to Remicade. He said that Humira, I was on it for too long. I was on it for, I think, 2.5 to almost 3 years. He said that was too long for the doctor to have kept me on it, that he should have changed it immediately when he noticed that I wasn't getting any better. So he put me on Remicade. Remicade, I was nervous about because doctors are a little bit nervous as to the side effects to it. I was on it and it actually was really helping for the perianal Crohn's. But then, of course, we go into, I think, 3 months later after, going through, because you have to go through the beginning, I don't want to say preparation, but introducing the drug and then going on your maintenance dose. So once I was nearing towards, because they had me at every 8 weeks to receive Remicade. By the 5th week, my bottom area was so inflamed. And the reason how I know that is because I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
And I wasn't passing stool. So not only did I have the area where I had a resection that was narrowing down, I also had my rectum area that was also narrowing down too because of inflammation. So I went through a really tough time being able to feel normal. I think at this point where I thought I had at least gotten myself back up from hearing my diagnosis from perianal Crohn's, I just took many steps back because now I couldn't eat anything without having a blockage issue. And then the doctors, they were trying everything that they could. Insurance was becoming more and more of an issue. The way how I was being billed for the services was coming out to a hospital bill because of their specialty was their location site was within a hospital. Even though it should have been built in a doctor setting, it was being built as a hospital setting. So my bills were just not looking nice at all whatsoever. I had to step back from that doctor. I got excited, at least in the moment, like, okay, I have a doctor that knows what he's talking about. That just didn't help. He referred me out to a doctor that he knew that could continue to help me through him. It just wasn't the same. They kept doing the procedures where they had to stretch me out. But the thing is, eventually that doesn't become safe. Once you stretch out 2 segments of your intestine, you're weakening the walls of it. So it just wasn't turning out to be
it's not sustainable.
A preferred option. No, it wasn't. So I started losing a lot of weight. I tried as hard as I can to maintain my weight with, the liquefying the meals and then drinking the carnation breakfast drinks and then the booze. I mean, it's just so many different liquid options that I was trying to really utilize to my advantage because I was losing so much weight. And then, of course, we're already vitamin deficient. So I just couldn't go. How can I say? I didn't want to make myself a lot worse because I didn't want to be put on a feeding tube, you know? So, it just wasn't working out anymore with the doctors down in Florida, where I was getting very desperate. And I figured, you know what? I have to start venturing out and see, okay, is there other doctors that I can see out of state or maybe hours away?
Mm-hmm.
After research, I can't even tell you how many hours, days, weeks that I put into researching. I came across one doctor in New York City that had good reviews. I went to them. It wasn't just something about it just wasn't making me feel completely comfortable to say, this is the doctor. So I fly back and forth. And then I find another doctor who she works with near Presbyterian Hospital, and she's part of the Weill Cornell Medicine department. She has amazing reviews, and I figured, okay, you know what? She's been doing this pretty much all her life. She's a gastroenterologist, but she specializes in Crohn's and colitis. She teaches it. She's part of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation as well. She's a big advocate for women's health and all these. I mean, she has a
checking all the boxes.
All the boxes.
Falling in love with her.
Yes. So I figured, you know what do I have to lose? So I first had to call my insurance to make sure that she was within network.
That had to be nerve-wracking.
Oh, it was nerve-wracking. I was so nervous. I'm like, please, God, please let her be in network. She thankfully was. And as soon as I found out, I called. I sent over all my medical records because that's what they had wanted before I could make the appointment. Once they received everything, I got the phone call that I had the green light to actually move on forward. I made the appointment as soon as I possibly could, and I flew out.
Wow.
When I met her, oh my God, I think it was emotional for me because it was a saving moment for me where I found a doctor.
Hi, everyone. We're going to break here for today in Nicole's journey, and we'll be back next week as she continues her battle against IBD with the support of a new doctor 1,200 miles away in New York City. Thank you for listening to the Crohn's Fitness Food Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have an IBD story, either as a patient or a family member that you'd like to share as a guest on this podcast, or if you have a topic you'd like to hear about, send me an email at crohnsfitnessfood@gmail.com. If you'd like to learn more about me and my Crohn's journey, follow me on Instagram using @crohnsfitnessfood, or visit my blog for in-depth articles about my struggles and victories with Crohn's through diet, fitness, and lifestyle at www.crohnsfitnessfood.com. And finally, remember, be strong, be grateful, and be the warrior that you are.